The hybrid workforce is here to stay, and it requires real-time visibility, control, and rapid response of every endpoint, whether it's in the office or home. Tanium offers an endpoint management and security platform built for the most demanding IT environments. Many of the world's largest and most sophisticated organizations, including nearly half of the Fortune 100, rely on Tanium to deliver unmatched endpoint visibility and control. Whether you're preparing for zero trust or protecting your network from supply chain risk, Tanium empowers technology leaders to achieve greater agility, efficiency, and confidence. Learn more at securityweekly.com/Tanium. Stopping advanced threats requires knowing exactly what you're up against. ExtraHop Reveal X is the only solution that shows you not just where intruders are going, but where they've been. 90-day look-back and complete network visibility across the data center, cloud, and device edge help security teams respond 84% faster with ExtraHop Reveal X network detection and response. Explore the interactive demo at securityweekly.com/ExtraHop. Today's connected world leaves no room for errors. Neustar reliably secures those connections. Neustar's cloud solutions, which include web application security, DDoS protection, DNS services, IP geolocation, and threat intelligence, ensure network availability across the globe. With over 20 years of award-winning security experience, Neustar proudly enables and protects digital assets of some of the world's largest enterprises. Find out how your company can benefit from the power of Neustar's trusted connection by visiting securityweekly.com/Neustar. Secure your world with Neustar. Always on, ultra secure. Welcome back, everyone, to Enterprise Security Weekly. Make sure you join us on June 24th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to learn how web application firewalls can help mitigate exposure in a complex threat landscape with Neustar. Then join us on July 15th at 11 a.m. Eastern Time to learn how a thoughtful approach to SASE can improve security and enable scalability. Please visit securityweekly.com/webcast. Register today. Of course, you can always visit securityweekly.com/on-demand and catch our entire archive of webcasts and virtual training. All right.
Sassy and thoughtful. That's like
thoughtful,
you, Paul.
sassy. That's right. Sassy. What do we got for stories, news articles, items? Where do we want to start today?
Well, alphabetically, I come first. So,
okay, Adrian, go.
So it looks like Axonius is planning an IPO. I don't think they're secretive about this at all, but it leads to a lot of questions. NYSE or NASDAQ. And also, what does Jupiter One think?
I can definitely not comment on behalf of Jupiter One.
But not commenting, that's commenting. Your comment is no comment.
No, they're fine. Good for them, man. I think it's great validation of the market. I think the approach that they're taking is interesting, and it's I love to see Coke and Pepsi in the same market declaring that brown sugar water is yummy, and that's kind of what's happening here, right? So
I'd love to hear how you really think after the show, though.
Sure. A different forum. No, but good for them. In all seriousness, good for them. And the hires that they're making are great. They're getting some great people. So it's, I think, the question with some of these unicorns is the valuation really going to be worth it? I think for a lot of them, it will be, just because the astronomical valuations in the public market. And, they've been in the market for a long time. They're doing a great job. I've been trained.
Lenny Zeltzer over there?
I've been trained.
Oh, really?
Say.
That's cool.
Sorry. Talked over Tyler a bit there.
No problem. Just saying I know how to dodge questions.
Part of the executive training.
Yes, it is. Yep.
In funding, there wasn't much else I don't think, was there any acquisition? Oh, no, there was one. Deloitte acquires cloud security posture management, CloudQuest.
CloudQuest.
I don't think I've heard
familiar.
of. Not familiar either.
Yeah, and by
it's
the words
interesting,
of it,
Deloitte's acquiring them.
Yeah, by the words of it too.
Sorry, go ahead, Don.
With the acquisition of substantially all assets of CloudQuest usually indicates a fire sale, maybe going down in flames. So it sounds like an IP pickup, which makes sense for Deloitte. They've got the intelligence there to hopefully turn it into something.
Well, more and more, I think we're starting to see. I feel like shoot, I'm going to blank on the name. There's a services company out there that very early on, they were bought by Singtel. Help me out here, Tyler. That bought all their own IP for their managed products. Trustwave. Trustwave. Yeah, it's Trustwave. I wanted to say Trustwave.
Wow. You blanked on Trustwave. Wow.
Yeah, brain fart. But it's starting to become more of a trend. We're starting to see more and more services companies building products, acquiring products, and trying to turn some of that go towards more subscription generated revenue. Like Bishop Fox, took some investment from VC to build Cast, and it's interesting watching this happen in this market where managed services are becoming more and more popular.
Well, because you can only have so many category kings. And so at some point, you've got to diversify and get into a different category of products, right? And services can only scale so much. And I think there's only a few companies that can like really scale out services. And there's only room for so many of them, right?
That's the catch with ProServe is, once you've been in market for a while, where do you go from here, right?
Yep.
Unless you want to run it as a lifestyle business, at some point you have to add product to it, which gets you a better multiple for exit. I think we saw something recently with the Denim Group as well, right? Last week or the week before, they sold off a chunk. Yeah. Similar storyline. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Yep, exactly.
ThreatX has raised $10 million. They're taking on a lot of functionality. I remember catching up with the ThreatX people years ago. They've got web app protection, which I'm assuming is some kind of WAF, native API protection, which could be an extension of a WAF, bot management, and DDoS mitigation. To me, that's like 4 different companies in one. I mean, we see categories in almost all of those areas. Actually, all of those areas. Yeah.
Yeah, so back when I was at Signal Sciences, it was RASP and WAF were pretty much all there really was. And then there was a rapid expansion into a lot of these secondary adjacent markets, right? And API protection, bot protection. And you start to see the blurring between protection from a certain attack class becoming a feature of web protection as a broad platform. And so like Signal Sciences got acquired by Fastly. Fastly has a broad protection, both CDN, WAF, bot management, API protection. Same thing happened, I think, with Akamai, spread into some of this stuff.
Right. Fastly and Akamai are huge companies in comparison, though.
Yeah, exactly right. So I don't know how a small team like this is, going to tackle such a broad product line versus rolling it up. But Gartner has started calling it, I think they're calling it WAP, Web Application and API Protection.
Yeah,
something like that.
WAAP.
Right. And it's a roll-up of all these.
Not like the song. That's different.
Yeah, definitely not
that's
like
dangerous territory.
It's dangerous territory.
No, not like the song at all.
Oh, boy.
All right.
Yeah, I had something else there, but I lost it.
You really distracted me with the song comment.
I did.
You took us into the gutter.
I messed it all up by mentioning the song. Now everyone's distracted and the song's stuck in their head.
So I've got a few funding items. And one of them I thought was interesting. I thought you'd find this interesting too, Paul. This Immersive Labs, I hadn't been familiar with them before now, but kind of reminded me of Recon InfoSec and some other newer companies here. Basically have their own ranges, labs. Where
I think
your folks can jump. Yeah.
Sorry, I think I interviewed these folks at some point.
Yeah, so everything from like kind of like a secure code warrior, type of environment where you can go in, test your skills, train your employees, and also more like the the Recon InfoSec will actually come out and set up a lab for you. It sounds like these guys have kind of the lab as a service where the blue team can jump in there. They can simulate attacks and they can practice detecting them.
And holy crap, they got a $75 million Series C.
Yeah,
for a labs company. That's impressive. That's impressive.
Yeah, I mean that's got to be scaling up sales and marketing, I would think there.
Yeah, because their labs is more like a product though, and More like a subscription-based product than I think you would traditionally think of a training company or anything like that, right? Like it's basically a I mean, especially for them to get 75 million in Series C, it's a product they can replicate and customize.
And I mean, the big thing I've been harping on like crazy that I think most security teams need to do that they aren't doing is practice at detecting and responding to attacks. We know some percentage of them are going to get through, and you want to be prepared for that. You want to make sure that you'd see it when it happens. And it's really difficult to build your own cyber range or testing lab. So I love the idea of, hey, I'm just going to pay a subscription, and my team's going to go in there and practice once a month, once a week. Hopefully those subscriptions are kind of all you can eat type subscriptions where you can go in there and practice as much as you want.
Yeah, that's really cool.
And then Recorded Future created its own early stage startup fund, which I thought was interesting. Obviously, they're going to go after startups that they feel like they could use within their platform. But it seems like Recorded Future's, kind of grown into this, pretty big company, that doing a lot of interesting things now, a lot more than just threat intel, what you might have thought of them as, 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. In product news, I wanted to talk about two announcements in particular, almost together, because Contrast Security has launched Contrast Scan, which sounds like a SAST, right? Static Application Security Testing. Sonatype launches a deep code analysis platform, which sounds like similar thing. Tyler, I don't know if you saw these, Adrian.
Yeah. The Contrast one is definitely closer to what you're talking about. And it's about connecting Contrast into the static analysis into the pipeline. The Sonatype lift is based on the acquisition of the company Muse that they did, which essentially gets them the ability to live in what I call the Git pipeline as opposed to the CI/CD pipeline, and that one will allow you to do QA, some linting, some static analysis, and SCA inside the Git pipeline. For Sonatype, it's a catch-up play because SNCC has been eating their lunch inside the Git pipeline. So that's a catch-up acquisition and release to get them there. The Contrast stuff is interesting because, IAST, which is Contrast bread and butter, when done right, can kind of displace in some ways static analysis, but certainly displace in many ways dynamic analysis. And so, I find it interesting that they're saying, okay, we believe that SAST is important and we're going to do SAST alongside of it. It might be, and it might just be a change in Jeff Williams' messaging and maybe not Contrast messaging, but we'll see that.
Yeah, that's really interesting. There's in the two categories you mentioned, there's a ton of competitors. I feel like that market's really flooded right now, especially when looking at static code analysis and security tools that plug into either your Git pipeline, CI/CD pipeline, DevOps pipeline, whatever it is. I mean, in each phase, there's half a dozen companies that you can go to do it, including some open source ones. So.
Yeah, the CI/CD pipeline storyline never resonated to me for traditional AppSec for SAST and DAST because the time it takes for those to occur. You can't really do it in a CI/CD pipeline. It makes a lot more sense to do it on a source code level in the Git pipeline on commits. So I think that was a smarter way to do it. And I think what you're seeing is the disruption into the more Git-centric view. But you're right, everybody's trying to do it now, both older, more mature players as well as some upstarts. So yeah, super crowded space, and I think there's room for new innovation there. I just don't know what it is yet.
Yeah, because everyone ends up
mature.
Everyone ends up with a different, building their pipeline differently.
Yep.
And
so matching the pipeline,
right?
Matching the pipeline, matching the Git pipeline. That's going to be the catch.
Yeah, because it depends on what language and frameworks you're using, and it depends on where and how you deploy. Are you in the cloud? Somewhat in the cloud? Are you cloud native? And like your build pipeline changes and it can change midstream. I mean, our build pipeline changed midstream. We're going to take some of these services and we're not going to run them in containers. We're just going to use a cloud native service to run on a React. And now I'm like, how do we do our CI/CD pipeline now? Because it's totally different.
Yeah, I think we're just in the middle of a transition in that market.
Yeah.
And that's why there's so many players.
Yep, agreed. SOAR is an architecture, not a product. So
yeah,
Anomaly saying
I'm not
that,
sure I agree with that.
Yeah, SOAR use case. So they say as SOAR use cases evolve to real world situations and industry analysts adjust their definition of the market, it's clear to them that SOAR is less of a singular platform and more of a comprehensive architecture for a lot of threads in the security stack together in a meaningful fashion, including a threat intelligence platform. So they're saying a threat intelligence platform is part of SOAR, but SOAR is more about how you make the soup versus the ingredients. I want to use the soup analogy. I went back to the soup. This brought me back to the soup analogy.
Yeah, I mean, so sure, right? How you make the soup is extremely important.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put in really bad tasting ingredients, it's still not going to work, right? It's still not going to taste well.
You can have a great process for making soup, but if your ingredients are bad,
right? I think it's both things.
I mean, to me, SOAR has nothing to do with how. Well, it does have to do with how you're making the soup, but you're buying more kitchen appliances to save time, and maybe you don't have to hire as many cooks, have as many cooks in the kitchen. But
There's too many cooks in the kitchen.
It's absolutely a product, in my opinion.
Yeah.
I mean, it's very broad. It's a very broad term, but if you change SOAR with SASE or Zero Trust, I would agree with the statement a whole lot more.
Yeah, Zero Trust specifically,
because those have huge collections of products underneath those terms. I don't think you can point at any single tool and say, that tool encompasses Zero Trust or SASE. But you can point at a tool, I think, and say, yeah, that's SOAR.
Yep. Speaking of Zero Trust, there was a Zero Trust announcement. Oh, Zero Trust networking startup Elisity raises $26 million. To me, this really sounds like I was reading the marketing copy from Edgewise, who was acquired by Zscaler, because it sounded very, very similar. So Elisity says it combines the paradigm of Zero Trust access, meaning no user is trusted by default from the inside or outside, a software-defined perimeter, devices and apps based on policies before they can communicate with critical resources. It's monitored by AI algorithms that track and monitor, analyze flows, user behavior. That's essentially, we spent a lot of time with Edgewise, and still do to this day. It sounds like what they built. And if you're reading this going, no way, check out, I forget what they call it now. It's under the Zscaler umbrella, but it's that. It's literally those policies applied to applications that uses AI and ML to help build models to say what should be trusted to what. So much so I saw demos where you could run Python code, but if it's not the Python code that was authorized to run, it wouldn't run.
Right. I mean, to me, this looks like kind of the classic ZTNA use case, which is what we used to call SDP. Yep. And yeah, what made Edgewise special is they went down to the process level.
Yes.
I think this is more of a traditional. So then the question becomes, is this something happening behind the scenes that stitches application servers and databases and web servers together, or is it user facing? And I think this is more of a user facing ZTNA where the user goes to an authentication gateway, and then Elisity connects them with whatever backend resources they need.
Gotcha.
That might not be published to the public internet, might be, but they're that kind of translation policy layer in between.
Tyler's confused.
Yeah, I'm always confused when it comes to Zero Trust anything, so I'm not surprised.
Yeah, it's software-defined networking, basically. And there's just so many ways that you can build it and put it in between stuff to manage, what people are allowed to access.
The other thing I'm seeing a lot of, quite frankly, is young startups that are doing, what you might think is interesting, and then you realize, oh, this has been done 2 years ago, 3 years ago, got acquired by some other company, and it's literally the same innovation with very little differentiation, and yet somehow they're able to get traction, get funding, and get acquired for another, $400 million acquisition somewhere else to some other competitor. And it feels like that's rinsing and repeating in multiple markets. I mean, just look at the ThreatX one that we just talked about, right? They're $10 million for all the web stuff that Fastly already does and Akamai already does. But they'll build it out. They'll get some traction. They'll get to 100 million, 200 million in valuation and get bought by some other company that needs it. And it just feels like innovation's lacking in a lot of these startups.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, and some of this is an interesting one because I used to cover SDP at 451, and about half of the companies here could just kind of disappeared, and half of them got acquired. So Akamai acquired a company here, Firemon acquired a company here, Verizon bought the assets to a company here. So another one rebranded and just shut down and disappeared. A couple products here just got shut down. Were kind of side products for larger companies. So it's an interesting space.
Checkpoint wins the buzzword winner of the week. Their announcement is talking about an automated unified cloud workload protection. They say, as COVID-19 pandemic forced enterprises to transition to the new work-from-home environment.
Sorry, Paul. Could you repeat that title again? I missed the title there.
It's my story number 8. Software technology. Checkpoint launches automated unified cloud workload protection.
I just wanted to see if you could say it faster the second time.
But then they lead in with the COVID-19 pandemic and how people are working from home. Like, we haven't heard that about 1 million times in the past year plus. Then they say the natural progression for organizations looking to enable their remote workers quickly. Again, we've heard that 1 million times. So more organizations are still migrating to the cloud, undergoing the shift left organizational change. Buzzwords in there. Security teams find themselves with multiple platforms to manage. These platforms provide neither visibility nor the ability to protect the rapidly growing cloud workload deployments. It was pretty much a buzzword fest.
I feel like half of that stuff has nothing to do with the announcement. Like,
right.
What do remote workers in COVID-19 have to do with protecting workloads in the cloud?
Well, because everyone shifted their workloads into the cloud. But that was so 2020.
Yeah, I feel like that's COVID-19 is different. That's companies shifting employees to home. That's not workloads to
but
cloud.
They use the word shift left a lot in there too. I don't understand.
And CI/CD
was shifting left. And I mean, I can put the pieces together in my head, but I'd have to rewrite the entire thing to make it make sense.
Yeah.
If you open up the article, it gets even more confusing. Like, versus just the headline you put in there, Paul.
Right.
The article is even worse.
That's what I'm saying. It's just like
again, they could have an awesome
a list
product.
of words that they needed to get in there.
Right. They could have an awesome product, but marketing has done them a disservice with this announcement.
And there's even if you sift through the pile of buzz, it still is nothing innovative. I'm not seeing anything in here that's doing anything other different than any other cloud workload protection solution might be doing. So
correct.
Yeah.
Let's see if this tickles your innovation fancy. Auth0 WebAuthn Passwordless now offers a new level of ease for modern authentication. I feel like I've read the standard for WebAuthn. It does use public key cryptography to accomplish a passwordless authentication process. Don't ask me to explain it in any more depth than that off the top of my head because I forget. It is pretty cool. I want to say WebAuthn is used, does have some use cases, specifically in some countries outside the U.S. as well, where they've got their universal identifier so they don't have to have a password to access government programs and stuff like that. I believe some of those are using WebAuthn.
I mean, like
go ahead, Adrian.
Duo push and security keys, that's all using WebAuthn.
Yeah. So it's becoming more popular. Interesting to use it as the passwordless experience, but I think it is gaining traction. They call it the first factor, right? First factor authentication. It's kind of interesting that you would still need, like, your first factor is not a password. Your first factor is what we traditionally may use as a second factor, right? So what's your second factor become? Some kind of biometric, perhaps? Right? Possession of the key and your biometric?
Yeah, they do mention specifically biometrics, facial recognition or fingerprint. Yeah.
So, interesting. Innovative enough for you, Tyler?
Yeah, I hope somebody fixes the password problem. It's the weakest link in every chain we ever run into. And if we can get it to the point where you just don't have to use it anymore, that's going to go a long way to securing a lot of things.
And we're getting there. I mean, I think every week we've got something that says passwordless in the title. So there's a number of companies focused on it. And I feel like on the consumer side, we've been there already for a while. And enterprise is just catching up to that.
It's true.
Yeah, I don't auth on my mobile device for many apps at all anymore. I always turn on the biometric just because I'm too lazy to type the passwords.
Yep.
Right.
I'm there with you.
And just auth keys. I sometimes jokingly call it half factor. Because somewhere there's a file that just keeps you logged in forever.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have to enter the password for your private key the first time, and then it just caches it. So it becomes a single factor for a certain period of time.
How often do you log into Twitter?
Yeah.
Like you log in once on a device and never again.
Yeah. Yeah, that is bad. I guess. I don't know. A couple more stories in there.
That's a whole segment.
Yeah, exactly. ForcePoint acquires UK-based cybersecurity firm Deep Secure. There wasn't anything really earth-shattering about this announcement, but it wasn't an acquisition from ForcePoint.
That is the most generic cybersecurity company name.
Yes. A pretty generic announcement, too. I mean, they say Deep Secure cybersecurity products and services protect organizations from cyber attacks delivered via malware and help prevent unwanted data loss. And I'm pretty sure that's almost everyone in cybersecurity today that makes a product or has a service has that same goal. So I wasn't sure what was going on there. Google taps Talus to power Google Workspace client-side encryption. It's my understanding Google Workspace is like the Office 365 for Google. Is that the...
Yeah, and they recently made a big change to it where now all the enterprise features are going to be available to everyone that
free.
uses Google.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, they've really pushed it free now.
Until they take away certain products and features and kill them like Google does, because they do that a lot.
They'll find some way to get money.
Yep. And kill things that people hate and aren't using, or some people love and they just want to kill it. I mean, you could go through a really long list of stuff that Google has killed. It's hefty. I think Stadia is probably next. But alrighty, thank you, gentlemen. Oh, one more. Sorry, I heard a...
I was just going to mention, I just had one more story, and I just thought it was interesting. The first big announcement since STG acquired RSA, they actually spun out some of their products as a subsidiary with a new brand called Outseer. I guess that's how it's intended to be said, but it's authentication and fraud stuff. So kind of interesting. I've been wondering what STG is going to do now that they own McAfee, RSA. Help me out.
No, that's not the company. It's not called Help Me Out. What's the company?
No, that's a different one. Help Me Out does something very different.
FireEye.
Interesting. RSA. I'm in the part of the book where Netscape licensed RSA technology for the Netscape browser, and RSA took 1% of Netscape and ended up making $20 million on their 1% equity share in Netscape, which was more than they made from software sales their entire history up to that point, which is pretty funny.
That's hilarious. Also, RSA, I don't know if you saw me send the story to you earlier today, but the 10-year NDA on talking about how the RSA breach in 2011 going down, that has expired for most of the people that were looking.
Wired scooped up that story,
Yeah, Andy Greenberg has a great story on it. Totally worth reading. There's some new stuff in there.
Yeah, I haven't read the whole thing yet. I need to do that. So awesome, gentlemen. Thank you so much. for appearing on Enterprise Security Weekly. Thank you, everyone, for listening and watching. We'll see you next time.